And I wonder about the tangled threads that led Barry Shack to start making spindles at Green Tree Ranch in Loveland, the owners of whom were the parents of Debbie Green, Deborah Redding, Deborah Chandler, which is a whole story for later, which was Barry's entree into the weaving industry, which led him eventually, not that many years later, to take me out to lunch and apply his persuasive powers, along with those of Halcyon Blake, who was then Halcyon Shaw, which was Halcyon Yarns, to start a new kind of magazine, one that gave weavers not just a lot of news and techniques, but actual recipes for making nice stuff. Well, I believe some of it was nice in the beginning. Now it's all nice, but back then, you know, you do what you gotta do. And there it is again, the very first issue of Handwoven. And this is you know, when I actually started using a professional photographer, and he had his own ideas, and I just turned him loose. And that's what a good male model looked like in 1979. And that's how you would style, you know, a Broncos fan blanket. And you'd even have him smoking a cigarette. It's pretty funny. And your weaving teacher, this is from the very get-go. Deborah wrote a column called Your Weaving Teacher that just grabbed people by the heart. It was really quite remarkable. And she has a way of talking about weaving and talking about the ins and outs and what you learn and what you need to know and how you deal with issues. And it just resonated for many, many years and went on. We'll see more about that later. Well, so, and then there was Joe Coca. He was just a kid fresh out of school. If he hadn't wandered down into my cruddy old basement office in 1976 and shown me a photo of a raw egg, which I still remember, I can still see it in my mind, I wouldn't have thought of him when I made the big leap to actually hiring a photographer to shoot the projects in Handwoven. And we wouldn't have all these wonderful, inspiring images. And there's himself. I think the one time we were able to make him put on a hand-woven garment and pose for himself. Isn't that cute?
He looks the same age today.
Well, no. Well, no. So, what if Barry hadn't fallen in love with Jane, who had just learned to weave and was out of a job, causing him to suggest that I hire her, even though she didn't know anything about publishing? Just what if? And what if Barry had listened to me when I said, heck, you hire her? And we went back and forth, you know, you hire her, no, you hire her. And love won out, because he knew he wanted her for his girlfriend, not his employee. And that was very smart. So I hired Jane, and she took Handwoven to a whole new level. She went from being a new shipping hire to being editor in like 1 year flat. It's amazing. Which also gave me the time to get into seriously publishing books, and to heed Ann Bliss's suggestion that you ought to have a little conference for spinners up at Pingree Park. The spin-off Autumn Retreat, SOAR, is still going strong 30 years later. And what if Dale Pettigrew hadn't been right there in the office to say, yes, I'll do it? I love it when people just say, no, I've never done that before, but I'll do it. So many things could have gone differently. It just challenges the imagination. And so many threads weave themselves in, you know, from directions you never anticipate. It's really wonderful. So, what does this have to do with you members of the Boulder Handweavers Guild? This is the part that's really for you. more than you might realize. If you haven't been around for a long, long time, and I see that some of you have, which is really a happy thing. I think back to all the Boulder Guild members who were absolutely central to Interweave's success. The wonderful late Carol Strickler, and I'm thrilled to see her daughter Janet here. Carol, who badgered me into more projects than I would even wish to list here, who was the most meticulous tech editor we ever had, who created a whole library catalog system just for weaving books and just for us. Emmy Spencer, Carol Camper, whose husband, because Carol had contributed to Handwoven, became Interweave's accountant for more than a decade, another one of those crosses. Sue Henriksen, Chris Urbanus, Peg Templeton, Erica Fosdick, Mary Kay Stair, Roneen Bohannon, artist Dobrovolny, Jean Anstein, Louise Bradley, Judy Steinkonig, Maggie Casey. I mean, more than that, and many of you are here and you know who you are, so we'll just look at some of your stuff. That jacket was Ronnie Bohannon, who was a tech editor and a frequent contributor, who had a wonderful, one of many of the Boulder Guild, who had a wonderful sense of style. And she's no longer with us, and that's sad. This is Sue Henriksen, who also contributed gorgeous. I mean, her color was her thing, and she did wonderful stuff. This photo shoot has a whole story behind it, some of which I will not tell. But the shirts, the shirts are cowboy shirts woven by Louise Bradley. And we shot it in a local bar. And the guy down in the...
Sue did the men's shirts.
Oh, okay. Sue did the man's shirts and Weezy did the woman's shirt, which was really a man's shirt, but it was small. The guy down in the right-hand corner we just picked up in the bar, and he was kind of half looped. So we just put a shirt on him and propped him up. And the guy in the upper photo is Mark Owens, who is still doing design and production at Interweave today. We just celebrated his 30th anniversary this fall. There's Peg Templeton again and her gorgeous studio. You guys are going to have to help me out a little. This shirt is Wheezy's. God, she's good. And this is... You can still fit in your jacket. I'm so impressed. Isn't that a gorgeous piece? And this was Ann Bliss. This was more on the funky 1970s side, but it's dyed with rabbit brush maybe, onion skins, I don't remember, but you know, one of those things we used to do and wear, and it looked great. And this is Wheezy again. And this is Yvonne Stahl, who is here. I'm so happy to see you here, Yvonne. And she contributed gorgeous, elegant, refined garments to us and accessories. And this is Emmy Spencer. Thank you, Jane. What? Hello. And this is Ann Bliss, and this is a photo shoot with a whole other story, where we were trying to shoot it in January, and it was summer issue. And so we put Joe and a model and a coordinator on a plane for Mazatlan. And they got stuck in a hurricane. But they got some fabulous shots, so that was cool. And this is And Sneery. Felted boots, very cool. And this is Janice Jones, who wove tons of stuff. I mean, it's more than I could say. I could fill a whole program with stuff that Janice did. It was wonderful. And this is,
isn't it Betsy?
that's Betsy, yes, it's Betsy Blumenthal, yes. I knew that. And I tried to find the cover that had Carol Campert's tapestry pillows on it because they were gorgeous. And somehow I don't have a copy of the issue. Too bad. I think especially of a project this guild did for many years. It was annual for a while, then it was biannual, and it was called the Fiber Fair. How many of you remember the Fiber Fair? Well, let me tell you. Sometimes it was held in a school gymnasium, sometimes it was in the old Boulder Armory. It was a very big deal. Imagine walking into a very large room and being surrounded by all things fiber. People carding fiber, spinning, weaving on floor looms and table looms, inkle looms, rigid head looms, people card weaving, braiding, making spraying things, twining, dyeing with natural dyes. Children and adults who have never seen these things before being invited to just try it out. Thousands of people coming over the course of a weekend. Don't you just wonder what connections were made on those weekends? I mean, it was a very big deal. I have an extremely crude picture of it, sort of pasted together in an ineffective way. But you see what was happening. I mean, it was people, it was a sale too. It was a sale of finished goods. So, you know, the guild would sell a few $1,000s worth of stuff, but they would also introduce thousands of people to the crafts. And I think that was a wonderful, wonderful initiative. And I know this guild has been extremely strong forever in going out into the schools, demonstrating and volunteering and going into the jails. Not that those people will likely become longtime customers, but, you know, it changes lives. It changes lives.